Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk about the recently released Star Wars The Mandalorian and Grogu, which has just made Star Wars history for having the lowest box office of any film within Star Wars history, even performing worse than Solo, albeit only just. It's a difference of about $1 million, but it is still technically a record setter, and it is also of course of note that Solo itself was a box office flop. But wait, there's more to talk about with regards to just how poorly this film is doing. Keep in mind, Solo came out when there was plenty of Star Wars film content to go around. Not exactly good content, but with The Last Jedi having come out the previous year, Rogue One coming out the year before that, you know, the one Disney Star Wars film that people actually respect to some degree and hold in a comparatively positive light. And the year before that, you also had The Force Awakens, and that's not even talking about the year after Solo came out, which is what gave us The Rise of Skywalker. Point is, Star Wars was getting yearly film releases at the time of Solo, and so it wouldn't be difficult to see people getting potentially burnt out of the franchise a little bit, due not just to the combination of the sheer frequency of the films, but also due to the lackluster quality for the vast majority of them. So it's easy to see people being burnt out in the case of Solo, and the film's performance not entirely being the fault of its own, though it is still at least significantly a part of it. By contrast though, Star Wars The Mandalorian and Grogu doesn't have that excuse. It's been 7 years since the last Star Wars film, so the case of burnt out, at least as far as the films are concerned, should be nowhere near the factor that it was for Solo. One thing though that is still a factor is the damage to the reputation that Disney has wrought upon Star Wars. And make no mistake, this damage has only gotten worse since the days of Solo. Between disastrous TV shows like Kenobi and The Acolyte, as well as the utter train wreck that was the High Republic era as a whole, Disney's handling of the IP is about as caring and considerate as Dachau. And whatever examples of Disney Star Wars actually being good, such as for example Andor, are more likely good by sheer accident, rather than be good as a byproduct of Disney's decision-making and handling of the IP. All of this is to say that it's very easy to see why this latest Star Wars film entry is managing to set records in all the worst ways. But you want to know a final piece of irony with regards to this whole situation? The film is still somehow managing to exceed the expectations of the analysts. That's not really a good thing. That's an example of the bar being set so astronomically low that the film can, and indeed has, set a new record for worst performing box office among Star Wars films, and yet that abysmal record-setting performance is still better than what was expected. Not only has Disney's mishandling of the IP been so disastrous that everyone knew this film was going to flop, but they also already knew that it was going to be the worst performing Star Wars film in history. It was only ever going to be a matter of just how much bad it was going to get. Now, Disney has anticipated this, as has everyone else, which is why the film has a much tighter budget as opposed to previous Star Wars films. Even so, this film is a flop anyways, once you factor in the marketing costs behind it, which generally speaking tend to dwarf the budget of the actual film itself. In other words, a film that makes over twice the box office as it's reported to make budget is still likely a flop because of that factor alone, and Hollywood no doubt takes plenty of other measures to make their returns on investment seem way more impressive than they actually are anyways. One could argue that there is potential that this film might help start to stabilize the Star Wars franchise, what with it doing better than the abysmal expectations that were placed upon it, even though its actual performance is still abysmal. That would require though that this film be better than just good, and keep in mind, reaching the standard of just good is a rare occurrence for anything Disney Star Wars related these days. And on top of that, it has to be more than just this film alone. Disney, if they want to actually regain the trust of the fans, needs to put out banger after banger when it comes to Star Wars content. They're going to need to do this for years in order to build up the IP's reputation. And also, let's just face it, they're going to have to retcon the entirety of the Disney Star Wars canon, preferably in favor of the old EU canon. Because at this point, the current Disney canon is just utterly unsalvageable. As you can probably tell, there's a lot of things that Disney would have to do to really turn things around, and it's not exactly difficult to doubt their skill and competence in being able to pull this off.